are business related. The way you feel will dictate the way you think and the way you live your life. Feeling your best is necessary to achieve your goals. You deserve to put yourself first. Let me help you flip the switch so you can feel better and do more. Let's talk. I know I can help.
Soy Salvador García Soto y a partir de este lunes quiero comentarle que las noticias de la noche cambian de horario. De lunes a viernes a las 10 lo espero por el canal 10. Ya lo sabe, el mejor análisis, las historias, los personajes están aquí en las noticias de la noche del Heraldo Televisión. Las noticias donde deben de estar. Acompáñenme.
Broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world. You are watching NowMedia Television.
Welcome to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. I'm Jen Gaudet, your fearless host, entrepreneur, investor, and business strategist. I'm here today because I believe that iron sharpens iron, and when we bring what's working and what's not in business to the table, we're able to elevate ourselves and our business. And the ripple effects impacts not just us, it also impacts our families, our teams, their families, our communities, and our world. I'm here today with our guest in studio, Tina Markham, and she is a legal rock star moving in the space of estate planning, probate, and family law. Welcome to the studio, Tina.
Welcome. Thank you for having me, Jen.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to be here today because in our previous episode, we were talking a lot about the importance of having a plan. And who better to have on the next show than somebody who operates in that exit strategy, probate and estate planning? How important is it for us to have a plan when it comes to our estate?
Oh, very important, very crucial. I didn't realize how important it was before I stepped into the legal field. And it's not just for the rich and wealthy. I think it's for really the middle class and anybody who have children and families that they want to make sure be looked after they're gone. Very important for those families.
And that's for just everybody in general. What about with entrepreneurs? How much more important is it for us to have a plan? Because not only do we have to worry about our families, we also have to worry about the exit and what happens in our business. So talk to me a little bit about some of the things and why it's so important to start a business and start that planning very early on, not just waiting till, oh, something happens.
Oh, yes, no, absolutely. So like you said, I focus my practice in estate planning, so I don't want to go too much into business law. That's not what I focus on, but it really, there's a segue into that, right? Because nowadays with entrepreneurs, like you said, with small business owners, startups, they can incorporate their business in so many different ways, and based on how you incorporate your business and the company agreements you put together with your partners, if you are going to go into it with other partners or investors, there's a way that you have to set up your estate planning to make sure if something were to happen to you, there's a proper way for your percentages owned in the company to go to your family members or the people you want it to go to and not just let it be stuck in the business. So a lot of people think that just because you own an interest in a partnership or a corporation or whatnot, if something were to happen to you, it automatically goes to your family members, but it doesn't. So getting with an experienced estate planning attorney and or advisors, those are the people that you want on your team. Those are definitely the key members.
Absolutely. It's something that's really important. And you know, a lot of times today, in today's world, we have a gig economy. Like, I know it's such a buzzword, right? But there's so many people who are solopreneurs or they're very, very small businesses, and maybe they're a single member LLC or whatnot. And then we just lived this. Pandemic happened, and I personally know business owners who didn't, like they were hospitalized, they didn't have a plan in place, and their team was left without any direction because those operating agreements maybe weren't in order. And then, you know, should we have to take into consideration a will or an estate planning or like a living will, like all the things that go into it, like those questions come to mind. And I think it's something that we don't think about until something happens, but then it's too late.
Exactly.
So talk to me a little bit about this, because this is a hard topic, like let's talk about estate planning. Estate planning is a hard topic because you're talking about something and people think that it's morbid to talk about, well, if something happens to me, and we all think, you know, in our 20s especially, that we're invincible, that we're never gonna die, that everything's gonna be amazing. How do you broach that conversation, bridge that, like, that challenge? Because it's a fear, like it's one of the most common fears is fear of death, like a fear of talking about those things. How do you bridge that in your field so that you're able to help people to navigate that conversation?
Yeah, for sure. So in my field, of course, the people that come to me, the people that reach out to me already have those thoughts in their heads, right? So you're right when you say maybe they don't know how to completely get there, but because they've already approached me, I know that that's on their mind. And so helping them bridge that gap, we talk about what is best, what can we do to best take care of your family after the fact, right? We don't know what's going to happen. God forbid you and I leave here today and something happens and we don't have a plan in place. I'm not ready to go anywhere, right? I have a young 16-month-old baby, you know, and I don't think he's definitely not ready to go without a mother, but not getting certain plans in place. You know, I'm leaving my husband with a mortgage, you know, with other bills and things like that. So not having the right plans in place is so detrimental to your family. So I talk to them in a way of, let's make sure our families are taken care of. You know, let's set aside a plan. It's really not about you. It is about you, it's your stuff and what you want to do with it. But really, let's talk about how your families are taken care of, because what people don't like to talk about, or really they don't want to focus on, is all of these other things that, especially if you go from a 2-income family, right, down to a 1-income family. If one spouse, God forbid, passes away suddenly, how are you going to make up for that 50% of the income that you're not getting now? And you may have 2-3 kids. Life insurance plans, trust, wills, making sure you're invested in the right areas, that all helps to make sure our families are taken care of, our children are taken care of. So I would definitely want to push them in that direction. Let's look at the bigger picture and not really just look at, you know, the here and now.
That makes perfect sense. And so what my follow-up question is, like, let's talk about the family piece of this. So many times people do not have a plan in place and they have children. What happens in that case? Because you do probate as well. Like, let's talk about what happens when you don't have a plan, because so many people don't want to, this is a taboo topic. We don't want to talk about, we don't want to talk about that. Nothing's ever going to happen to us. So what happens if you don't have a plan in place and, heaven forbid, both parents are involved in some sort of situation and these children have to be cared for?
So unfortunately, I definitely deal with those, a lot of those cases in my area of practice. And what happens is you're going to be spending money that you don't have in the first place to go to probate court, to fight with other family members to secure this interest that you think you rightfully have, right? And so what could have saved you headaches and time and money in the first place by spending a couple $100s to the low thousands to spending tens and hundreds of $1,000s contesting this in probate court. That's what you're looking at, right? And at the end of the day, you're not even guaranteed to win the fight you're set out to win in obtaining your interest in this home left by your husband, your wife, your brothers, or your sister, or financial account. So anytime you have to involve courts, probate courts, or any courts in the matter, there's no guarantee. So setting the right estate planning mechanism in place and going about it with the right attorney to help you get there, that can secure your interests.
And so now talk to me, like, how would you talk to young families? Because I know you're very passionate about this, and children need to be taken care of. And I know I'm a grandma now, so I know that when I was young mom and facing some of these things, there were people that I definitely did not want to be taking care of my daughter in the case of something happening to me, right? And fortunately, I'm still here, thank goodness for small favors. But you know, like, how important is that discussion to be had at the dinner table, like as soon as you have children, or even like when you're planning for them?
For sure. So there is what the law calls, especially in Texas, but what the law calls a set of intestacy rules, meaning natural order of things take place when you don't have the proper estate planning documents, a will, a trust, powers of attorneys in place to dictate on your behalf who you want to care for these children in the event that you pass away, or even in the event that you become incapacitated, you know, not being able to. So those are the mechanism that we want to use and put in place, and those aren't the only ones. I only named a few, but you want to put those in place to make sure that you put the world on notice when it's ready to be noticed, that these are the people that you want to take care of your children, take care of your assets. And you may even want to put on there a specific list of people who you don't want to do that. Really most recently just came out of a probate jury trial where a family member specifically put in her estate planning instrument that she doesn't want a certain child. You know, that's hard to hear for this child now, but she really doesn't want that child to be handling any part of her estate or of her children. And so that's important for you to put in there, because as our rights, we have those rights to say who we want to take charge. And it doesn't even have to be people you are related to. But if you don't have those things, there are family members under the natural order of the intestacy laws, brothers or sisters that you may have not met for 25 years or more, now all of a sudden coming in, and they're gonna take care of your children because you don't have the right estate documents in place.
Yeah, so we talk about having a plan in place in business all the time and how important it is. Now we're talking about how important it is to have a plan in place for the care of your children, for how you want your estate handled. There's so much that we can unpack here. We do have to take a brief break, so we're going to take a stop for a commercial, and we'll be back in just a few moments. Are you a business owner feeling overwhelmed or burnt out with no energy left for what's most important to you? In order to effectively run your business and maximize your profits, you have got to be the best possible you that you can be. Now is the time to reclaim your energy, master your schedule, and maximize your profits so you can effectively run your business rather than it running you. It's time to become the CEO of your business and life. I'm Jen Gaudet, a business strategist and life coach. I work with overwhelmed business owners who feel stuck in a rut and depleted. I teach you how to stop doing the things that aren't making you money and start prioritizing the things that bring you energy, joy, and lasting impact. I'm a human performance specialist and an international best-selling author. I've helped countless people all over the world to learn the art of saying no, overcome their fear, and maximize their performance. Let's get you to live your best possible reality. Start today and become the CEO of your business and your life.
Hispana de noticias y entretenimiento. Sirviendo a la comunidad hispana por más de 25 años. El mejor contenido para estar informado. Política, comunidad, moda, cultura, entretenimiento, cocina, comercio y más. Obtenga su copia gratis en todas las taquerías Arandas.
Your spine gives your body structure and support. It allows you to bend and move freely, and more importantly, it protects your spinal cord. Your spinal cord is a column of nerves that connect your brain with the rest of the body, allowing you to control your movements. But when your spine gets misaligned due to slips and falls, car accidents, sports injuries, or years of repetitive wear and tear on the body caused by everyday activities, it can cause painful conditions. Stop living in pain. At Lacombe Chiropractic, we can help your back pain, pinched nerves, sore neck, bulging or herniated disc, headaches, or posture problems. We offer chiropractic adjustments, cold laser, decompression, and therapeutic massage. We can even help you reach your weight loss goals by offering the Ideal Weight Loss Program in our office. Often all it takes is just a few treatments for our patients to experience pain relief and better functioning. We'll find the cause and correct it so you can live a better life. If you're worried about those daily aches and pains getting worse or really don't know what to do or who to call, don't wait any longer. Call Lacombe Chiropractic now at 512-645-0420 so you can improve your health and live a better life.
Welcome back to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. Jen Gaudet here, your fearless host, entrepreneur, investor, and business strategist. And I have in studio Tina Markham talking all things estate planning, probate. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about how important it is to have a plan in place, because if we don't have a plan in place, we're leaving it up to judge and jury, and things might not transpire in the way that we wish. We may end up with other people than we would like to, overseeing care of our children, our assets, etc. So I want to bring you back to the next question that I have, Tina, and that's, we're entrepreneurs, we're executives. That's who my viewers are, my listeners are. And so we talk a lot in business about having a plan in place, having a strategy in place, and how important it is to have a succession plan in place. Whether you're a single member LLC, or especially if you're partners, what happens in the case of incapacitation or whatnot. So I'm gonna ask you first about like the single member LLC and how important it is to have a succession plan for if something happens. If you don't have that succession plan in place, what happens with the business if something were to happen and you were incapacitated?
Oh, yes, for sure. So a single member LLC, it's still a separate entity, the way it's created, right? And so we need to have the formal company or operation agreements and who's a member or manager, even if it's the same person. And so the way that the person who owns that LLC needs to set up their estate plan to make sure, again, that the assets of the LLC gets passed through in a certain way, or to make sure that the LLC gets taken care of in a different way. Well, you have to use the right estate planning tool, because if not, like I said, either once something happens to that single member LLC, I think that LLC itself can just kind of disappear, right, or just stay stagnant. That person's wife or husband or partner or whoever can't just jump in and say, I'm taking it over, if there's not the proper procedure. So you can risk that everything being stuck in that LLC, and there may not be a way, or the way is very expensive to liquidate assets and liabilities or transfer the LLC to another person. So it's definitely important to make sure you have those plans in place.
And something that I like to talk about, and all of my clients, we talk about this on the first day. Like if you're launching a business, you have to talk about the exit strategy. Like, what are we doing? Even if you want, I'm always going to have this business, this is my passion business, doesn't matter. We have to have an exit plan and exit strategy, because one day you will exit. Yes. And what does that look like? And so estate planning is such a key part of it. We talk to every one of our entrepreneurs who say it's very important that you meet with somebody such as you, Tina, because it's important to have your plan in place from a business standpoint and from a personal, because what happens when we don't have a plan is we leave that stress and that burden on the survivors, right? The people who we care most about. So thank you for answering that. I think that's very important. Now talk to me a little bit about partnerships. And partnerships usually have like a right of first refusal for the portion of the business or whatnot. Talk to me about what happens if that agreement is not in place in that kind of a way. What if you don't have an exit strategy and you're incapacitated and you're a member of a partnership?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to make sure I kind of stay in my lane a little bit. I'm not an expert in business law, but you're right. Partnerships, and there are different types of partnerships that can be formed as well. And partnerships definitely, if you are a limited liability partners, meaning there are multiple types of partners, you definitely need to have that partnership agreement there to lay everything out. And it needs to be clear in there. If not, if you become incapacitated, you may risk the other partners coming in and taking over your shares, taking over the partnership without any any inputs from you or your family members, right? Or if you're just a regular partnership where it is less formal, it's basically a DBA, but you have multiple people, taking care of the business. Now, with nothing in place, one partner can run the other partner out, and just you're facing all this litigation that's in place, and it may not be protected under an entity depending on the type of partnership you form as well. So definitely very important to make sure all of those things get in place. I like the word you use. I think that's more of a business term, exit strategy, right? Getting that in place, and kind of like business where you have partners, you have people you trust to make sure you go over that plan, right? I talk to people about their estate planning too. You don't want to shout it out to the entire world, this is what your estate planning is, this is what your business plan is, but you want the trusted few to know what you're doing and to be a part of your plan so that they can properly take that over.
I think that's fantastic, and I've got a follow-up question for you. How important is it to let the person who's going to be the executor of your will or trust know that they are in that role?
So crucial, because there is the unspoken rule, and it's the law, that they have to accept that nomination from you to be put in their will. So you don't want to surprise your trusted person or the person who you want to take care of your assets after your death. You don't want to surprise them. So you definitely want to ask them ahead of time, right? Before they go and they get mad at you for putting them in this role. Now they have to take on extra responsibilities, and they're just going to go and do whatever they want with your stuff. So please ask your executors before you put them in their will, your will.
And then I have another follow-up question. What happens when you're asked to be the executor and you really don't know what it is, and you say yes, and then all of a sudden you find yourself having to deal with all the things that entails?
So there's a couple options. To answer your question, for that person who's put in that spot, they can always reject or disclaim that appointment, right, that candidacy, and ask the court to not appoint them and appoint somebody else. For the person creating that will, that's why I always tell them, when you come to me, I want you to have multiple tiers. There's the first candidate, this first alternate, second alternate, so that way, if something were to happen, they can move on to the next person in the will, and the court will still appoint, or most likely appoint, that second person or the alternate, and somebody you still want to care for your estate.
And then when that day comes, because I have witnessed this, I have witnessed this multiple times, and you're the executor, you agreed to be the executor, and all of a sudden you are the executor, and you're really faced with all the things that go with that, which is the familial squabbling. We all know it doesn't matter, you can plan everything, and there's going to be squabbling. People are never happy when money is involved.
Yeah.
Been through enough of this. Like, how important is it to have another resource, somebody who does what you do, to help guide that way?
Oh, so important, because you don't know how to navigate that otherwise, right? And I've talked to you about that one jury trial. We have had multiple trials, unfortunately, with families bickering. They don't know what to fight for. They just know that there's money in the pot from their moms, their dads, their brothers or sisters, and now they just want to fight for, a portion of that money, but they don't know how to navigate that. Probate courts, and there's a reason it's set the way it is in Texas, but probate courts are very complicated to navigate, and I would say it's almost nearly impossible for somebody to try to represent themselves in a contested probate matter.
Yeah, it's very, very hairy. And not only that, like, think about the emotional toil that takes. It's so important to have professionals such as yourself. And I completely admire you, because I could not be in the midst of all of that. I don't know how you do what you do, because that is a constant, contentious situation in my mind, in my experience, honestly. And so, you are a very special individual. I really applaud you for what you do. And we do have to go to break in just a moment. Before we do, if people are listening and they're like, okay, these are big words, I've never heard executor, I don't know what they're talking about, if they were to take one step, if this is like, oh, I didn't really want to have this conversation and now I understand I need a plan, like what is that one step you would recommend they take?
I would recommend them to go talk to an attorney, an estate or probate attorney. Nowadays, to be honest, to be competitive in the areas or the area, attorneys will need to provide some sort of a complimentary type consultation or affordable consultations for these people who don't know anything to get in. You know, you don't want to scare off people by saying $1,000 consultation just to talk to me, because not everybody, the majority of the people probably can't afford that. So I would say talk to an attorney, ask for attorneys who provide you with complimentary or some sort of affordable consultation options, and talk to them.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So you hear it from me all the time. Go to the professionals, get the professionals' input. You just heard it again in the legal space. We are going to be right back after these messages.
Are you considering selling? More than likely, what is the most expensive investment, your home, now or in the near future? Before you throw away precious equity down the drain and live to regret it, I'd like to share with you 5 reasons why you need to stage your space, whether living in it or selling it vacant. Hello, I'm Kat Trelinos, President, Master Staging Professional, and CEO of Tada by Kat Next Level Staging and Design. Number 1, you need to stage because you'll make more money. According to the National Association of Realtors, more than 5 to 20% more staged. Number 2, so buyers can visualize the staged property as their next home. Stage because, number 3, not staging will only help sell your competition stage homes. Successful realtors know that the key to competing is professional staging because it creates great online presentations, drives buyer traffic to the home, and brings the highest offers. Number 4, stage because it makes the home seem larger when strategic placement and flow are created with proper staging. And number 5, stage because then you can relax, knowing you've done everything possible to get a quick sale, not leave any money on the table. Let our award-winning team bring the magic of next level staging to your property today. Be prepared to be Tarad. You'll be glad you did.
¿Alguna vez has deseado obtener mayor concentración y energía para ser más productivo? ¿O has deseado volver a dormir como cuando eras un niño y despertar descansado y listo para salir con toda la energía del mundo? Hola, mi nombre es Marisa Burres con My Vital C. Nuestra empresa ha estado produciendo durante más de 30 años esta molécula que llamamos ESS60. Ayuda con su visión, ayuda a las articulaciones y la flexibilidad. Ordene My Vital C con ESS60 en aceite de oliva, aceite MCT o aceite de aguacate en nuestro enlace www.vitaless60.com. Contáctanos al 832-463-1919 o al 888-441-1993 o por correo electrónico a marisa@myvitalc.com.
If you've had the same insurance agent for years, when's the last time you got a second opinion? At GGC Group, we offer second opinions on your coverage. Why? We like finding you more value for the money you're investing, making sure you have the right plan for the best coverage, meeting all your needs. Plus, we offer a convenient, easy enrollment process. Learn more, ggcgroupcorp.com, or call now.
Welcome back to Power CEOs, the Truth Behind the Business. I've got Tina Markham here in studio. We have been talking about estate planning and probate, but I want to shift that focus because her real passion is family law, what happens in real estate, all the things. So this show's about the good, the bad, and the ugly, Tina. What is the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to family law and real estate?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people don't think about it, and I know cohabitation is very, very common in our society nowadays. And so one of the issues I get brought up a lot is people, unfortunately, who are coming to me for a divorce, or a consultation for a divorce, and they said, well, both of our names are on this house that we bought 5 months before we were married, but now she's telling me that it's not a community property. Is that true? And I have to tell them, look, in Texas, yeah, that's true. We are a community property state. So anything that you deal with before marriage, it's considered separate property, and there's a whole set of law governing that compared to anything you bought after marriage, which is community property. So people really have to pay attention to that. Or one of my favorites, I trust him. I was not there, and so the title company allowed my fiance to close on the house with only her name on it, but my name was left out. But we bought it together, and we used both of our monies. So now what happens? Well, now you're risking the fact that she's claiming that as her separate property, because not only is her name the only one on the title, but it was bought before marriage. So I just want to encourage people definitely to, like estate planning, before you do anything, go talk to an experienced attorney.
Absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about this, because this is something that I know is a confusion, because it also happens like when something happens and someone passes away and they've never been formally married, but they've been living together for 20 years. All their funds are commingled. Mm-hmm. Like, how does that work? Like, what does that look like? When does common law become a thing in that situation?
Yeah, so Texas actually recognizes common law marriage. So there is a possibility for you to win that claim, even though you guys never, or the two of you never got formally married. There's a set of factors that the law can determine, not just by itself, but as all of it together, if you guys were indeed common law married. Now, one of probably the first indicators is you got to go back to your health insurance policies to see if you claimed each other as spouses on there, right? You got to go back to your tax return. Now, that's a big thing. I know the federal government is separate from state, but you don't want to be claiming somebody as your spouse on a joint tax return, but never gets married, and now that's being brought up in divorce court. And so are you, now is the question is, are you trying to defraud the government, right?
Oh, wow.
So be careful with that. So there's a variety of factors, and it's not just about how long you've lived together, whether you've had kids together, whether you've bought property together. Those are some of the myths that's in place, but there's really a long list of factors. So again, get with an experienced family law attorney to advise you accordingly.
All the sticky situations. Isn't this fun?
I guess that's if you want to call it, but it allows me to have a job, right? So,
and we're very grateful for that, because there's people like me who could never do what you do. So talk to me about family law. What is your favorite aspect, and what is the thing that we all need to know that we really don't know? Because I really like to shed light on the things that maybe we don't know, because we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. So my favorite aspect, and I know I can't speak for everybody, but I think most family law attorneys would agree with me, are adoption days, right? That's definitely one of the highlights in family law, when you set aside the bickering of who gets the child and who gets what in a divorce. When a family comes together and commit to adopting this child, and everybody agrees with them, or we fought to get there, this child or children having a family, that's probably one of my highlights, is seeing the adoption go through. And I've been so fortunate to be able to have helped out with several adoptions during my practice. So definitely my highlight. And then the other question is, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to repeat that.
What don't we know about, we don't know what we don't know. So what do you wish everyone knew about family law?
I wish everybody would probably consider it for the kids. That's my hardest things. And divorces I can handle, honestly, by the grace of God. Custody battles are a little harder. So when you have a divorce with children in it, involving a custody battle, a lot of times parents, because they're so conflicted and they can't really see clearly, they're unintentionally getting these kids involved. The kids are, no matter what happened, kids are not at fault, you know? So what I really want people to realize is that when you are put in this situation where you have to divorce one another or go to court for custody in some way, take a step back and see what is really in the best interest of your kids. You know, is it really in their best interest not to see mom or not to see dad for weeks and weeks at a time? And I'm not saying that we're not going to address things that needs to be addressed, but a lot of times I think people can cloud their judgments about what's necessary for the kids and really what is pettiness, you know, so.
Absolutely. Keep the kids in mind.
Yeah.
And that brings me to my next question, because in business, we talk about having a business prenup. We always use, so here on the show, we always use a prenup and a divorce synonymously with partnerships.
Yeah.
And having that prenup with your business partners and your strategic alliances, have everything in writing, have the contract, and when you're in the honeymoon phase,
yes,
before you sign the papers, what's going to happen if we break up, right? Mm-hmm. And so we always use that as an analogy. So it's going to be really fun to hear the other side of it. So we talk about doing that in partnerships. How important is a prenup in today's world for a first marriage, for a subsequent marriage? How important is that?
So I know some lawyers may differ in opinions on this topic, but I definitely think I think it's important. Now, a first marriage, depending on your stages of life, right? So if you're a 20-year-old and getting married to another 20-year-old, you guys really don't have property to begin with before the marriage. Maybe you're probably not going to have money to go to a lawyer to spend a couple $1,000s to put a prenup together that is empty, right? But definitely, if you're in the later stages of life, you've got a career set up, you have children from before, outside of the marriage, from other relationships, or if it's your second, third, or fourth marriages, I would say definitely that's the time where you may want to take a step back, see what you would need to do to prepare the marriages, and have a frank conversation with your soon-to-be spouse about it, right? It's not necessarily about lack of trust, but it's about protecting each other's families that you've had before the marriage, and being frank that way. And if the relationship really can't get past that prenup conversation, then maybe that's an indicator that you shouldn't get married.
We talk about that in business all the time. If you can't talk about what happens when we break up, then maybe we shouldn't be together in the first place. So I love that you brought that up, because it is so true. And let's be real, folks. If you're listening to this at home and you've been married, I'm on my second, so I totally understand this. If you can't have that critical conversation before you get married, it ain't gonna get any better. You have to be able to address the hard topics early on. And earlier we were talking about, wills. Like, what happens if you're in a marriage and you couldn't talk about a prenup before, and then all of a sudden your spouse is in, or you're in an accident and your spouse is responsible for saying yes, pull the plug, or no, don't pull the plug. Like, that's like a tremendous decision in a stressful situation. Don't you think you'd want the plan?
Yeah. Now, that's funny you said that, because I had a very sweet couple come in a month or two ago, and that literally was one of the spouse's concerns, is that you need to get what they called a DNR, a living will in place, so that the other spouse can direct the physician directly what to do under life terminating circumstances, right? Or terminating illnesses or things like that. Because the other spouse told me, like, look, I'm not going to want to make that decision for you. After all of these other things that she's most likely going to have to deal with, the last thing on her mind is whether or not she has to make the decision or make the last call on pulling the plug on her husband. So she's like, you put that on paper, and that's what we're going to go with, because you're not going to put that stress on me. So
and not only that, it alleviates the guilt, right? We're making our choice, and so nobody is faced with guilt. How many times have you seen, and I mean, this has happened several times. I come from medicine, so this was like a big topic, and every year we talked about some of these situations, but when there is nothing in place, how much stress is that to the family members who make that decision, and then the family members who are not happy with the decision? Like, it's so much easier if we're very clear and we have on paper what it is we want from the get-go, whether we're talking about a prenup in our marriages, whether we're talking about a DNR, or what our living will wishes are. I think it's very important, because it helps decrease the stress. It's not like anybody has to stress over well, what am I going to do in this situation when the situation arises? Because you've got enough stress and trauma with the situation. So thank you for sharing that. And so quickly before we go to break, Tina, like if people are thinking about getting married and they're worried about bringing up the prenup conversation or how that will look, like how would you phrase it? If you had to do it all over again, how would you phrase it?
Well, I would say, and I'm just thinking this aloud here because to be honest, I'm imagining a very awkward conversation as well, right? But maybe sitting each other down and just almost like a pre-marital counseling type of topic, you know, like what are your thoughts on coming together and do a prenups and hear me out. This is my position. What is your position? Maybe there's some sort of a compromise the two of you can come to, and those are the conversation that you should be having before you tie the knot anyways, right? And so let's just put all the awkwardness out there. Your marriage, I'm not saying your marriage is going to be perfect after that, but let's just lay everything out there now before you risk something happening later on after you tie the knot. So.
Fantastic. That was spoken like a lawyer too, I'm just going to say. And by the way, folks, this is not legal advice. This is just a conversation. So please don't take this in substitute for legal advice in any way. We are going to be back in just a few moments. We do have to take a brief break. We'll see you in just a few moments.
Are you considering selling more than likely what is the most expensive investment, your home, now or in the near future? Before you throw away precious equity down the drain and live to regret it, I'd like to share with you 5 reasons why you need to stage your space, whether living in it or selling it vacant. Hello, I'm Kat Trelinos, President, Master Staging Professional, and CEO of Tada by Kat Next Level Staging and Design. Number 1, you need to stage because you'll make more money. According to the National Association of Realtors, more than 5 to 20% more staged. Number 2, so buyers can visualize the staged property as their next home. Stage because number 3, not staging will only help sell your competition stage homes. Successful realtors know that the key to competing is professional staging because it creates great online presentations, drives buyer traffic to the home, and brings the highest offers. Number 4, stage because it makes the home seem larger when strategic placement and flow are created with proper staging. And number 5, stage because then you can relax, knowing you've done everything possible to get a quick sale, not leave any money on the table. Let our award-winning team bring the magic of next-level staging to your property today. Be prepared to be tarad. You'll be glad you did.
You probably already know that first impressions are never forgotten. However, did you also know the way you feel about yourself contributes to your quality of life and the opinions of others? Hi, my name is Kristen Gunderson. My mission is to help people by flipping the switch inside their body, which in turn will help them to feel better and do more. In fact, once you feel your best, you will be able to pour into others, keep your cup full, and reach every goal you have set up for yourself, whether it's personal, family, or business related. The way you feel will dictate the way you think and the way you live your life. Feeling your best is necessary to achieve your goals. You deserve to put yourself first. Let me help you flip the switch so you can feel better and do more. Let's talk. I know I can help.
I was recently asked what it means to be a family lawyer. What is family law? Family law is not just about divorce or custody or child support. Family law is about your life. As a family lawyer, I protect your children, your wealth, your future. I don't do this alone. As your attorney, we work as a team to determine your goals and priorities and provide a strategy in an often complex, painful, and confusing time. Whether it's asset protection through pre- or post-marital agreements or fighting to protect your children, I'm here to help. My team and I bring decades of combined experience to support you and your family in all aspects of family and wealth planning, from estate and legacy planning to divorce and child custody issues to representation in complex litigation cases. Take a decisive step. We're here when you're ready. Remember, it's about your life.
Welcome back to Power CEO's Truth Behind the Business. If you're just tuning in, you're going to want to go to NowMedia.tv, find our show, and watch the first few segments because it has been jam-packed full of all kinds of amazingness. We've talked about estate planning, probate, family law, and now I'm going to turn to the more entrepreneurial side of things and ask you, Tina, if it's okay with you. You are literally there dealing with contentious situations day in and day out. You're advocating for children, you're dealing with divorce, you're dealing with a lot of things that most of us think of as very stressful. How do you balance your life and really your energy so you can continue to show up and serve in that fashion?
Absolutely. So for me personally, I know it has to be a calling. Otherwise, I don't think, like you said, I don't think I can survive doing what I do. And so for me personally, my relationship with God, my faith in God, and just Him driving me there allows me to continue to face these high conflict situation, high stressful situation, and also Him allowing me to have my family to go back to, right? And just being able to leave everything at the front door. Let's go in and enjoy my family. I think earlier I mentioned to you about me having a 16-month-old, right? Before this, I used to be one of those, staying at the office till 6, 7 o'clock at night to try to finish work, and now having him really forces me to, I need to make sure I need to leave as close to 5:30 as possible because there's somebody there waiting for me, and I need to come home to see him and have him for a couple hours before I have to put him to bed. So your priorities change, I think, as your lifestyle changes. But so for me, that's how I deal with it, is making sure that I have my family there, closing the door on work when I come home, and really just trusting God for the energy and for the wisdom to get through. So
I think that's really fantastic. And one of the things that we talk about a lot here is focus on priorities, right? And we usually talk about it in a business sense, in all fairness, but also we need to focus on our priorities in our personal life too. And so how were you able to set those boundaries? Like, what happens in your mind? Because here's the thing. A lot of times when, and I'm going to speak about women in specifically in this because this is something that many female entrepreneurs face. And I'm not saying that men don't too. Some men do have this as well. But it seems to be very prevalent in female entrepreneurs. What about the mom guilt aspect of being in business, having a career, moving in this and taking care of other people? Like, how do you manage that and set that boundary and mitigate that mom guilt, if you will?
Yeah, having a supportive partner is so key in this situation. I'll tell you this, my amazing husband has never made me feel like that, and he's encouraged me to really keep moving forward with what I'm doing. But you're right, that mom guilt, oh man, is real. I miss him during the day, and I want to be there with him, but I think having that balance, but also knowing what I do can make a difference. I'm helping families, I'm helping people see their kids again, I'm helping people keep their kids, I'm helping people come out of divorces not being screwed over, so just knowing that I'm helping people and what I do matters, that also helps me. And I know that my son is proud of me, and I know that my husband is proud of me, so that support system is so crucial.
And something that comes very strongly to me, and this is something that we talk about with our female entrepreneurs a lot, who are active moms, and that's, imagine what what example you're setting for your children. And when you set the boundaries on work, it actually gives them that experience, and they have permission to do the same. And so like you're setting them up for a foundation where they can actually be a high performer, be a very successful human being, be an entrepreneur if that's what they want to be, and have a life. And that's something that, like, I was not raised that way. I mean, I'm a Generation Xer, and so we were like, this is what you do, you go to work, you do these things. And so we really are very driven by results and productivity, and sometimes you can lose focus on what really matters. So we have to really continually redirect. But I think it's very important when we set our boundaries that our children are getting the benefit of that, and able to take that moving forward.
For sure.
Thank you for sharing that. And then I have another follow-up question for you, and that's, how do you maintain your self-care outside, because you're a mom? You're dealing with taking care of all your clients, like you're a spouse. How do you take care of you and get your self-care in and still manage to be the complete rock star that you are in the courtroom?
Well, to be honest with you, I can be a lot better. I'm taking anybody who wants to give me advice on how to be better at self-care, let me know. But one of those things is to make sure that I take some time for myself. I love having a bedtime routine for my son, because when I come home, again, spending some time with him, putting him to bed, but those 2 hours at night that when my husband's not home because of work, I get to myself, right? Or we are intentionally setting aside some time to, even if it's just turning the TV on, even if it's just opening a book and reading a book, and just having some alone time, for sure.
Fantastic. We have been through so many. You've given us so many gems. So now I want to kind of like pull it all together and have some action steps, because after all, I'm a coach, and so like I wouldn't be a very good coach if we didn't have action steps that people could take today and move forward. And we kind of already talked about on the estate planning side, if you don't have a plan in place or you're not sure where to go, have a consultation. So I don't want to have that be just the only action step, but in case you forgot or you're just tuning in, that was one of the possibilities for an action step. But for those who are moving in these spaces, they're navigating, maybe they're an entrepreneur, or maybe they're about to be an entrepreneur, they're also have children, et cetera, what is the one piece of advice you would have to them so that they can move powerfully forward and elevate their game, whether it's in business or life?
I think be authentic. Be who you are. I think you and I have had some conversations off camera, but not trying to be somebody you're not. Everybody has their different personalities. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. I'm not going to try to be somebody I'm not to sell myself to clients, right? Because they see past that. And when you have a professional relationship with somebody, whether it's in the legal field or in the business field, you want to be able to trust that person that you're doing business with too. So my first and foremost advice is be who you are, and then let everything flow from there.
That is sage advice, Tina. Be who you are. And so as we're talking about this be who you are, tell me, what's next for you? Like, what's your biggest, like your next big business challenge or your next step, so that we can hear who you are and continue to support you?
Well, probably, I know, like I said, I am focusing my practice right now mainly on probate and family law, but I just have a knack for not wanting to reduce myself or confine myself to just those areas. And I've always had a real interest in property laws and real estate, and so I've had the opportunity to handle some cases already, and just expanding my knowledge in real estate. I have great contacts for realtors and mortgage lenders and title companies. So wanting to expand my area of practice into those fields as well, to see how I can best serve my clients and better connect with them.
Oh, well, fantastic. That's great news, because I'm an investor, in case you didn't know. So we'll have another conversation off camera about that. But you heard it, folks. You've got the Tina Markham here bringing all her gems of wisdom. So Tina, for those who are watching or maybe listening, how can they reach out to you either for legal advice or counsel, or just to talk about the journey and how do you set boundaries and how do you do the things that you do?
Well, for reaching out as far as networking aspect or just want to connect better, I would highly recommend you emailing me. I think my email is there, but it's Tina, T-I-N-A, at bloodworthlawfirm.com. We have our website, www.bloodworthlawfirm, as well. That's one of the best ways to connect. I also have a great front desk staff, support staff who answers the phone. So that's really key. And I'm just going to throw in a little plug there for small businesses or boutique law firms to have real persons or people answering your phone to get that connection and not hire really a redundant answering machine or answering service. So I have a wonderful support staff who, if you call during business hours at 936-291-3100, they can get you connected with me or my managing attorneys to be able to set up consultation or just answer questions that you may have.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your wisdom. I really appreciate you being here in studio today, Tina.
Thank you so much for having me, Jen.
Absolutely. And you, yes, you, I'm talking to you now. You've been here, you've heard it, you've heard all about planning, having a plan, having an estate plan, choosing what you want and taking the stress off of your survivors or whatever that may look like for you, and how important that is. We talk about that all the time in business. It's also equally critical in life. So let's get moving. And that knowledge is only part of the equation. We know the magic happens in the implementation. So Tina gave you an excellent action step. Be authentic, be you in everything you do. And if you want to learn more about these things, you have an amazing resource in her. Do some research, get your counsel in order. Those are amazing action steps from today. And of course, we know that all good things come to an end, unfortunately, but the good news is that we'll be here the same time, same station next week. So if you've got any feedback, if you want to hear anything special, go ahead and email me, jengaudet@jengaudetcoaching.com. We welcome your feedback here. I really appreciate that and try to bring the most relevant content to you. Before we go, do your action step today. Put it into action today, not tomorrow, so that it becomes just a part of your routine and who you are becoming. And go win today, win this week, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a NowMedia Television feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Proteja su salud y la de su familia con la cobertura adecuada. Si ustedes, como el resto de nosotros, que sabemos que la causa número 1 de bancarrota en el país son costos médicos inesperados debido a una mala cobertura, entonces les recomiendo que escuche con atención. Un copago del 20% de sus gastos médicos originados por una enfermedad como cáncer o un accidente podría eliminar en días los ahorros por los que trabajó toda su vida. Sin mencionar la necesidad de tener acceso a los mejores médicos y hospitales tras el tratado en eventos inesperados. Como dueño de una empresa, usted trabaja más duro que los demás y usted es el mayor riesgo. Por eso, cuando se trata de elegir un seguro de salud, es importante obtener la cobertura adecuada para usted y su familia con Clark Health Insurance. Nuestra misión es ayudar a los propietarios de pequeñas empresas, familias y contratistas independientes a elegir el plan de seguro de salud adecuado al costo correcto. Nosotros simplificamos el proceso y respondemos a todas sus preguntas sobre sus opciones de seguro médico y comparamos las políticas y los precios, obteniendo la mejor opción posible para usted. Además, podemos ofrecerle planes de visión y dentales suplementarios que podrían ahorrarle mucho dinero. En cada paso, Clark Health Insurance está dedicado a usted y su familia, enfocándonos en sus necesidades y guiándolo hacia las soluciones correctas. Juntos encontraremos una manera de maximizar su cobertura y minimizar los gastos de su bolsillo. Somos Clark Health Insurance. Proteja su salud y comience a ahorrar dinero en su seguro hoy.
Si estás pensando en invertir en una propiedad en Houston, Elda Management Services es tu solución. En Elda nos encargamos de todo lo necesario para comprar y administrar tu propiedad con seguridad, tranquilidad y confianza. Llámanos hoy para una asesoría gratuita y sin compromiso al 281-894-8659.
¿Qué onda Magazine? Una publicación hispana de noticias y entretenimiento. Sirviendo a la comunidad hispana por más de 25 años. El mejor contenido para estar informado. Política, comunidad, moda, cocina, comercio y más. Obtenga su copia gratis en todas las taquerías Arandas.
Hello, my name is Colleen Meagle and I'm an attorney. Let's talk business. Do you have a business that you want to buy or sell? It's crucial to get an attorney involved sooner rather than later in any sale process, because the moment that documents are signed, your leverage goes right out the window. So make sure that you get what you really want and protect yourself in the process. So if you're looking to sell, let's talk. I've handled acquisitions for Fortune 200 companies and helped numerous business owners discover how a great lawyer is a partner in a transaction, guiding you through the process and preventing you from making mistakes that can cost you thousands. My goal is to provide my clients with focused, cost-effective, yet practical legal solutions. So let me help you with your legal needs. Call me today, 713-300-9662.